A lot of you may know Skull and Bones as the game that started development shortly after the release and immediate success of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And it's the game that has been delayed time and time again, originally supposed to come out in 2018. I think it's been delayed around 6 to 7 times now, but finally it has a release date for February 16th, 2024. I would think this time it will actually come out on that date and not get delayed again, since that's less than 2 months away, but honestly it's impossible to know with this game clearly. But pretty much everything we've heard and seen with this game's development has been an utter nightmare. I think this game has become a massive headache for Ubisoft, and at this point they're just trying to get it out the door and still make something out of it. So recently they've been holding some closed betas for Skull and Bones, and I was able to get into the second one that just ended and played the game for around 6 hours or so, and I definitely have some thoughts. Now, I want to make it clear, my expectations were already very low for this game, just knowing all the issues it's had in development, and that people who previously worked on the game have come out and said that years into development, they still weren't exactly sure what kind of game they wanted it to be. It's just major red flags all around. Years into development, the team was still trying to answer basic questions like, do you play as the ship or a pirate in this game? So with all that in mind, I wasn't expecting a lot out of this game, but I thought it would hopefully at least have some of that fun naval combat that started in Black Flag, and could at least create another pirate experience a lot of people have been craving for. But after playing the game, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I am thoroughly unimpressed with what Skull and Bones is, and let me just start by saying, I've played Sea of Thieves, a game I feel Skull and Bones is in a similar style of, but I don't think there's a single thing Skull and Bones does that Sea of Thieves doesn't do better. I can't believe a full decade went into this game. It feels outdated, incomplete, and generic. It feels like a step down from Black Flag in multiple ways. First of all, who wanted a pirate game where you can only do naval combat? I don't think the naval combat in this game is bad. It's fun, like it was in Black Flag, but it's the only form of combat in the game, and it gets boring. I like naval combat as much as the next guy, but what made Black Flag so fun was you could live out the pirate fantasy. Boarding ships, engaging in melee combat, exploring islands, and looking for treasure. Do you want to see what boarding a ship looks like in Skull and Bones? That's right, a quick few second cutscene that just repeats itself. There's no melee combat, which I figured of course from watching the trailers, but how are you gonna make a pirate game without any melee or hand-to-hand combat? And a prime example of this game being outdated is the fade to blacks and loading screens. You can't freely roam the deck of your own ship. Every time you dock at an area, the game will just fade to black and you're teleported onto land. You can't freely get off your ship and run there yourself. Same for leaving, you just teleport back onto your ship whenever you set sail. It's incredibly immersion breaking, and not at all what I'd come to expect out of a modern game like this. Especially when you could do these things in Black Flag, or even Assassin's Creed Odyssey for that matter. I just wanted to freely get on and off my ship, and you can't even do that. There was even a fade to black when I tried to get onto these random cannons in the open world. This does not feel like a 2024 game, and that's probably because it started development back in 2013. There's still the foundation of what could be a fun game here. Like I said, naval combat is pretty fun. There's quite a lot of progression and ships to unlock and craft. I think it's cool how you can toggle between first and third person on the ship, and it's of course multiplayer. You can play with friends or random people. I did play with a friend for a bit in this beta, but you can't even be on the same ship. If you do play with a group, you all control your own ships instead of being able to share one, which I found disappointing. Skull and Bones has quite a bit of customization as well for both your ship and your captain, although the options are a lot more wacky and cartoonish than what I was hoping for. One thing I thought some people would prefer about Skull and Bones over Sea of Thieves were the more realistic graphics. Sea of Thieves has this kind of cartoonish art style style, and some people were excited to see a more realistic and grounded looking pirate game. And Skull and Bones is not that. The cosmetics are very over the top and silly, similar to Sea of Thieves, and the graphics, while they're fine I suppose, don't look particularly realistic either. It's a lot less grounded than what I was hoping for, and of course there's gonna be plenty of microtransactions to sell these crazy skins. There's another classic pillar of recent Ubisoft games with levels and plenty of level-gated missions. Harvesting materials consists of sailing your ship up to the coast and then doing this mini-game, which feels very lame. The story, through what I played, felt incredibly generic and uninspired. There's tons of talking and dialogue that just isn't all that interesting. The voice acting feels subpar, and again, like a lot of recent Ubisoft games, the facial and character animation during cutscenes looks robotic and outdated. You do get dialogue choices in some of the cutscenes. I'm not sure what exactly those choices affect, if anything. Like I said, the playtime was limited to 6 hours, but the plot for me was very forgettable and uninteresting. The characters feel like your typical goofy and quirky Ubisoft characters that speak like the most stereotypical pirates imaginable. I'm so disappointed that 10 years was spent on this game when we could have gotten a Black Flag sequel or a single-player narrative-driven pirate game. In fact, I thought one of the biggest appeals of this game would be that it would fully lean into the pirate fantasy. Because while Black Flag is still a great pirate game, it's also an Assassin's Creed game. So having an open world single player game that fully leans into the pirate theme, where you create your own pirate and rise in infamy, could have been really cool. Instead, we get Skull and Bones, which feels like it's missing so much of what actually makes being a pirate in a video game fun. This game comes out in under 2 months, and I don't think I'll be playing it on launch. I can see how some people can have fun with it, but it's definitely not for me. Which is a real shame, because I love Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and this was supposed to be a game that capitalized and improved on the foundation it built. But instead, it stripped out like 90% of what made Black Flag special and only kept the naval combat. At least we're getting a Black Flag remake sometime in the distant future, so hopefully that can fulfill the pirate itch that Skull and Bones failed to scratch for me. Playing this game actually just makes me want to go back to Sea of Thieves. Maybe I'll make another video on that game sometime. But let me know what your current stance is with Skull and Bones in the comments, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. A special thank you to my members, and other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Evo me hearties one by one.